Good afternoon, guys. Welcome to the Shay Show. My name is Shay. Today's a beautiful day here in Charlotte, North Carolina. And today we're going to be speaking with Mary Davis. She's the author of Everyday Spirit. I know it's going to be showing up backwards to you guys. She has a book of daily wisdom and spiritual practices. It's just awesome. Joy, love, and peace. So right now in this world that we live in, there's so many negative things we're all experiencing. We're experiencing feelings we've never felt before, circumstances that are beyond the scope and framework of what we could have ever expected, anticipated. And if you're anything like me, I find myself having a myriad of different feelings throughout the day. Right now, I'm calling them many different falling aparts. One day I'm all right. The next day I'm falling apart. The next day I'm fine. And then I'm falling apart. And that kind of cycle probably happens sometimes a million times in a day. But why we're here today is I am committed at a time right now where there is such a desperate need for goodness. Ooh, there she is. Mary Davis, here she is. For goodness to be put into the bringing every voice that is pushing the needle towards love. And Mary Davis is that type of woman. Hey, Mary Davis.
Hey, Shay, good to see you.
Good seeing you. Can you hear me clearly?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Do you have your volume all the way up? I just find that in the translation, sometimes, thank you so much. So, Mary, I just was telling them a little bit about who you are and why I think your message is so pertinent to this current moment. Mm-hmm. At this time, we all are experiencing things that we've never experienced before. I think we have feelings that many of us have never encountered, at least if we have, never back to back to back to back, how we are doing it right now. Mm-hmm. And so I find it to be absolutely necessary to wherever someone is pushing the needle towards love, shining a light in a dark place, I want to talk with that person. And so for me, that's who you are. So first, let's start where I always begin. Where are you physically on this world and on this planet?
Now I am in Florida.
Okay.
Close to a beach.
Ooh.
I moved here after I wrote the book. So I wrote the book in a cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia.
You did?
And my marriage had just broken up and I felt like I needed to leave the house that I'd lived in for 20 years with him to kind of start again.
Were you living in Virginia at the time?
Mm-hmm, outside of DC. Okay. And I had a music career there for a long time. So that was really my home after college.
So you're a musician?
I was a musician. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when I was looking to move, there was sort of a series of serendipitous events. I tell the story in the book, but that led me to this cabin in the middle of nowhere, really. I couldn't see the street or a mailbox. I was completely alone in nature. And I knew the first day I was there that this book that I had been trying to write for such a long time was meant to be written there. So.
Do you know what? Not to stop you, but that exact thing is what I remember maybe 12, 13 years ago, listening to Eckhart Tolle. And he was talking about, and I believe the book was actually A New Earth.
I love that.
It might have been A New Earth or it might have been The Power of Now. I can't remember which one. But as we know, he's from Europe, specifically, isn't he like German, I believe?
I think.
Right. And he had this deep longing to go out to the Pacific Northwest in the United States. And when he got there, it was like the book deposited in his soul. And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I learned at that point, I had felt inclined in that direction before, but it wasn't until I saw someone out there who was doing it on a larger scale that it gave me, I guess, permission to validate my need. And that is sometimes things can't come to you where you are.
Mm-hmm. So true. And Liz Gilbert talks about this in Big Magic, how The muses find you when the time is right. And if you're ready, grab it. If you're not, it'll move on to someone else or something else. And in that moment, I knew loud and clear that this was the moment, this was the time that Spirit was talking, and I needed to open and let the lessons drop through from me to you.
So this was a book that you had felt you were supposed to write for some time?
About a decade.
About a decade. And what was the impetus? What did you remember feeling? Because probably the clarity of what it is and what it became wasn't fully what you felt, but what did you feel? Take us back to those early days when it was just a thought and you weren't acting on it.
I had been interested in spirituality all my life and had a daily practice for 30 years. So I was studying the principles and knew them and loved them and felt like awakening our spirit part of mind, body, spirit. I think the spirit part takes a back seat in most of our lives. When we awaken that, I found through spiritual practices, we live a completely different life. We have a different compass, and we are more connected, more peaceful, happier. We find our purpose. We get in the flow.
Yeah.
So I was collecting those things as I went along in my music career, and onward. I was teaching yoga after that and teaching piano to little kids. But the beginning of that book is interesting that you ask that, because I tried to write it as pages of wisdom for my daughter when she was in her early teens. You know, when they stop listening to you, and I would
I'm in the middle of it.
Yeah, and it's exciting time and everything, but I couldn't talk to her and be listened to in the same way that I was. So I would write out these kind of moral of the story things and leave them on her pillow. And so I started collecting them. And when there would be like 10, I'd sew up the binding. And it was Everyday Spirit. I'd leave it on her pillow. And I wanted to write a book for teens of just spiritual wisdoms, little simple daily things.
Sure. And
she'd look at that and come back to me and say, Mom, I would never read that much in one day. This was just like a page, 2 paragraphs. So
you're encouraging my soul right now. Thank you.
It smaller and smaller and smaller. And she kept saying, too long, Mom, too many words. Until one day she's sitting at the kitchen table, staring at her cell phone, just like this, eating her breakfast. And I'm watching her from across the room, and I say, that's where I need to be. And I boiled all the lessons down to quotes, which is where all my quotes come from.
Yes.
Made those into phone wallpapers, and that became the app, which was a huge, huge undertaking because I didn't know about app design. So I've now made 1,000 wallpapers for mobile phones. It's an app that's always in the top 100 of lifestyles in the App Store. It was the book boiled down, became the app. And then all these years later, I got to expand the stories again from the eyes of challenge, really, and suffering and starting over and not knowing how my life was going to go going forward. I had to look at all these spiritual practices again from the eyes of challenge. And that's why it works now in the world, because here we are, all of us.
In the heart of challenge. And while you're speaking, I'm like, do you think this book could have even been written before you got a divorce and your life fell apart?
Exactly what I keep thinking. It wouldn't have been this book. It would have been much lighter weight. It would have been just as deep and probing and have the intersection of love and fear and pain and joy.
Yeah.
All that stuff is in here now.
Yeah. And I would take a stab at it and say it wouldn't have even been as truthful. Not that you would have not been operating in truth. You would have been operating the truth as best as you knew. But I think pain and difficulty requires us to put off any kind of facade, any kind of structure that we think we control and we direct and we drive, right? Pain comes in and upends all of that, doesn't it? And so when pain comes in, upends that, I think the level of what comes out of that is unfiltered glory.
Yes, exactly. I think that the most, not for everybody and not in every situation, but I have found that my most painful experiences have been the jumping off point, the crossroad to the most incredible transformation and ultimately blessings in my life.
Me too.
Absolute corner turners. To the extent that now I have less fear for the things that we consider awful in life, because I know there's something in there for me. If I have to go through something, I know there's something in there for me.
I love it.
That my soul needs to know.
Amen. What I love too is that this came out of trying to connect also with your daughter, like the challenge of trying to keep, this is what's so beautiful. And I hope people are picking this up so they can lay this over their lives. But because my heart, my deepest desire is that people hear other people's stories and they see how to pick up the gems from other people's stories and lay them in their own lives. So what this is so beautiful for me is this came out of you trying to connect and pour into your daughter. Because my daughter says to me right now, why does everything have to be a lesson when I'm talking to her? Like I talk too much. I don't say the right things. I'm pretty dumb to her. I know nothing. I'm like, just so you know, there are a lot of people who think your mother actually has something to say, whatever. But the point is, you distilled this down. Her challenge to you, you trying to get her attention, required you to go deeper and deeper and more refined and more refined and more refined. And unbeknownst to you or her, probably, this is the beautiful thing that came out of it.
Exactly. I think that sometimes when we just get out of the way and allow it to come through us, it does. It really does.
Tell me this. When you finally, when you knew, like you're in, you go to Florida, right? Is that when that's when the book comes out?
Yes. When I was finishing it when I moved to Florida.
Oh, so you had already started it.
Oh, the book only had about 30 out of 366 essays to go when I moved to Florida. I wrote pretty much the whole thing in the cabin.
I love it. I mean, I
only had a few left, and I did all of the back matter. The bibliography is really big, and all those prayers and spiritual practices at the end. I did all that after I moved here too. But I was a race to the finish because I wanted it to get out for January 1st of that year. So I was working really hard, head down, all day, every day to try to get that out for that year.
Why? There's something you say that's very interesting in here to me. How and why did a spiritual practice become important to you?
Well, I'll tell you where it really locked in. What? About 20 years ago, 15, 20 years ago, I had a serious illness and I landed in an ambulance on my way to the ER. I was unconscious. Mm-hmm. And I had a near-death experience.
You did.
So I feel myself come out of my body and I'm standing in spirit form behind the EMTs who are working on me, one on each side, trying to get IVs in my arms. Mm-hmm. And they're yelling to each other over me, very dramatic. We're losing her. I can't get a vein.
And you're standing behind them.
I'm standing behind them, feeling great.
Can you see yourself?
I can see myself, and I had very little attachment to the me on the table.
That's what I was going to ask you. Thank you for saying that. Go on.
It was like watching Grey's Anatomy. You know, it was like watching other people do something.
Yeah, that's perfect.
But the remarkable thing was that I wasn't worried about how this would come out for me. I had an incredible love for the EMTs. I could see them in spirit form as like columns of light. And I loved them so much, and I wanted this to work out for them. I was like a ball of compassion, and I recognized myself in them, that we were made of one thing, that we were one love, connected to this bigger love, and that is why we are here, to love each other better.
Girl,
And
you're preaching.
interesting, in light of everything that's going on in the world now, I could not see their race or their religion or their sexual preference or how they might have voted. They were love, and I saw myself in them, and they were part of me. And that
Wow.
is what we're doing here. And that has never left my side. So if we are here to love, we've got to practice love.
Amen.
We're always practicing something. So I can practice judging people, or I can practice blessing people. You know,
Yeah.
I can practice gratitude, or I can practice complaining. I can practice surfing my phone or walking in nature. We're always practicing.
And whatever we practice, we get good at, don't we?
Exactly. So the spirit responds when you pay attention to it. So I find that sitting down,
You said that.
for 15 minutes to however much time you have a day, every day, non-negotiable, makes everything different, and your spirit will awaken and rise to the forefront. And that was part of the book also, in the way it was written, with the how to practice this in the day section in there, the in the world section. How can I take this story and bring it into today? That's the practice. And so the books were made so you can sit down in the morning with the book, read the page, contemplate how you're going to practice that in the world, and write in your gratitude journal, which is an incredibly powerful spiritual practice. If you were to pick one thing to do, that would be the one, to write down 3 things a day that you're thankful for. And that practice of tuning into spirit and being grateful every morning. And I can go more into spiritual practice as we talk on, if you want to.
I do. I wanted, that was actually going to be one of my firm questions to you. Please tell us, what are some of your spiritual practices? Because I'm always interested in taking it out of the ethereal and putting it into everyday practice. Because oftentimes when people start speaking in terms of spirit and spiritual practice, it starts to lose those who think it requires a lot and it feels a little too hoo. And what I want people to know is it's actually the most grounded and accessible and everyday kind of thing, more so than even the things that we actually spend a lot of our times, our time on: worrying, being angry, being offended, being frustrated. This is something that's very, very tactile. You can touch it, you can access it. So that is one of my questions. Please tell us some of your spiritual practices.
And just to add what you just said, the spiritual practice helps with all those other things,
right?
All those things that are bothering you and that are stressful for us right now. Your spiritual practice will address all of that. Okay, so I boiled mine down to 7 non-negotiables. I call them the Soul 7. There are more, and you can add as many as you want, but these are mine.
I want to hear your Soul 7.
I never get up from the cushion till I do these. There's actually 5 in the spiritual practice seat in the morning and 2 that I take out into the world. Well, they all come into the world, but you know what I mean. So when I sit down, so I have a place, a special place where I do sit every day. It can be your kitchen table. It can be a corner of the couch. You can set up an altar with your yoga mat. Maybe a candle is there, something special to you. But the idea is that when you sit down, spirit knows that this is your time. This is soul care time. And the first thing I do is I read the page of this book. And I also read something else, maybe from Eckhart Tolle, maybe a different day book. You could use something from your spiritual religious tradition.
Were you raised in a particular religious tradition?
My father was very religious Catholic. And my mom was very spiritual, Eastern, experimenting.
Mysticism.
About alternatives and mysticism and contemplatism. And between the 2 of them, it was like living with the Pope and the Buddha under one roof. They were both passionate about what they believed in, but they respected each other. And I learned through them to sample different spiritual traditions and to find the God in all things.
Mm-hmm.
And in small things,
Yeah.
and right here in the room.
Right.
Okay? So that sitting down with the inspirational reading elevates your mind. So you're reading from people who have done this all of their life. You're bringing your vibration up by reading these gems of wisdom from people who have done their life so they could give this to you.
Right. So why
So
wouldn't
you
we
sit
receive it?
there and it raises you. You're sitting there and then suddenly, here I am in soul time. And your temperature goes down and you feel more grounded.
Yeah.
The second thing I do is pick up the gratitude journal because I feel like before meditation, I need one more thing that grounds me. And I sit there with the page and I think about the past 24 hours. I do it in the morning, so I think all the way to the day before. People who do it at night are reviewing their day.
Yeah, I'm a morning person too.
And so I'm thinking little things. It can be this moment, this blanket, the rain. It can be the call from someone, or that I was able to pray clearly for someone.
Yeah.
It can be anything, but it's personal to you. The thing is about the gratitude practice, though, is that it's not only thinking of it, it is writing it. And
I love it.
the research shows, and there's lots of it now, that the people who do this are more positive, they feel more abundant, they're happier, they're kinder to their spouses, they sleep better. There is an amazing host of easy payback from doing that. And you learn to look for the gifts. So then you're on a walk later and you see this cardinal in your path and you think, that's going in my gratitude journal tomorrow.
Right?
You start collecting gratitudes. And
I had a coach one time who encouraged me to track my money. You know, she said, she was teaching me how oftentimes we interface. She said, everything is energy, as you posit and you teach in your book too. And she's like, everything is energy. And energy wants to be where it is wanted, where it is seen, and it's appreciated. And it's of the same, right?
Exactly.
So she said, what I recognized in my life, Shay, is that I treated my relationship with money like a bad boyfriend would treat you. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, I didn't want to talk to you. I didn't really want to call you. I didn't want to track and follow up with you. But when I needed you, I also dialed in. And that was all only thing. And she's like, it was a terrible relationship. So what did money do with me? It stayed as far away from me as possible. She even brought it into that. So she put me on a task of tracking my money. And to your point of being out in nature and seeing the cardinal and being like, oh, that's going in my gratitude journal. That now, because the focus is on what am I grateful for, you see a myriad of things that you can be grateful for. Well, that's what it was when she told me to track my money. She said, any place where something comes back to you, where you got a deal or someone bought you, I just want you to track it. I see you. I want you. I appreciate you. And then you know what I started, at first I was a little bit like, oh no, I'm not tracking my money, you know. And then I started tracking my money. And then I started looking at all of the many ways in any given day that people had specifically financially blessed me. Even if it was like at Starbucks, they gave me the drink and decided, you know what, for whatever reason, they didn't want to charge me for it. I tracked that little thing. I was like, I am grateful for my free hot cocoa. So what's interesting is the moment I started doing that, I started realizing that I have those moments every day, Mary, every day. And I would not have paid attention to it before.
That's a perfect example because it applies to everything. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. Yeah. So if you are concentrating on, I don't have enough money.
That's right.
Or wish I had more money instead of I am abundant, then you are energizing, I don't have enough money.
That's right.
If we keep thinking about everything that's wrong with the world, how do we hold space for the loving world that we wish to create?
Oh, glory.
We have to make equal time for what we wish to manifest, or we can't make it happen. We have to focus on that. So another thing that spiritual practice does is aim us toward love first thing in the morning.
Ooh, I love that. Aim us towards love first thing in the morning. Thank you. Keep going.
Okay, so you've done your inspirational reading and your gratitude practice. And then I'm ready for meditation. And meditation.
This is the third thing, right?
And meditation for a lot of people is scary or hard, or they think they're not good at it.
Yeah.
And our minds are so full of everything that's going on and pretty fragmented, I think, because of how quickly we change gears between all the things we do now. And our mind's job, if we're mind, body, spirit, our mind's job, our ego mind's job, is to organize us and protect us and help us survive. And it has to have a lot of details. That's its job. It's not a bad thing. But left to its own device, without the spirit part, your mind is working on separation and me first, and I'm different from you. That's what it's doing.
Ooh.
So
separation, me first, and I'm different than you. That's what the mind is natural. That's the natural state.
Ego mind does. That's its job. It's okay, but there's nobody driving the car then, because you're on automatic pilot. You're reacting instead of responding to the life events that come to you. When you become a meditator and you slow down all of that loopy stuff that's going around in there that's not the important things, they say something like 70% of our thoughts are repeaters. So we're looping the same stuff.
You know what? I've never heard that number, but I know it to be true because I've seen it in my own life. And you know what else I've seen, Mary? I've seen that I think about the same things at the same time every day.
Interesting.
When I'm brushing my teeth, there are these thoughts. And I'm like, I noticed that about 5 years ago. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take these thought captives. I'm going to try to interface with that and like push it out. So now I'm aware of it. So I'm often pushing things out. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. Because you said something that freed me right then when you said the mind, the ego mind, wants to have it all be all about me, see myself separate and different than you. So then that gives me freedom to know that when those thoughts are happening, that's not essentially who I am.
Exactly.
That's just what the mind is doing. The ego is doing.
Exactly. So you recognize it. So meditation is like going to the gym for that.
Yes.
It makes you learn and practice to hear all of that monkey mind, as the Buddha called it, jumping from tree to tree to tree, with nothing between, nothing to connect our thoughts really. And when we meditate, and I really do encourage you to try to sit and just think, I breathe in, I breathe out. To really try to do that, as opposed to listening to Insight Timer or the Calm app, which are wonderful and really helpful if you find your mind to be intolerable, if it's so loud or you're so anxious that you really need a voice to calm you off.
So when you started your spiritual practice of meditating, you just truly sat down and just
breath awareness practice.
That's it. Breath awareness practice.
And so that takes it down to its simplest form. I studied meditation with Yogananda, who is an Indian guru who came to the United States and really did a lot of work with East meets West. So yes. I got deeply into different sorts of meditation and learned a lot about it as time went on. But I always come back to breath awareness meditation, because then I can notice when I'm just saying, I breathe in, I breathe out. I breathe in.
Does your monkey brain pop up in the middle of all of that?
Yes. So that's part of the practice too. So you'll notice the monkey mind coming in, and this is good. You want to notice this. It will happen. It's just how it works. It's part of meditation. Monkey mind comes up, and you'll think, I got to remember to get salmon at Trader Joe's. Right? You're starting to, the specifics, really.
Oh,
And then
God.
you know it, you're in the aisle looking at the mahi.
Girl, yes. And then while you're there, oh my God, they had that wine that was there last time, and I hope they have it this time. Like, your brain, it is
and
unbelievable.
10 minutes can actually go by, and then you realize, oh, I was meditating. Whoops. And the practice is, you call it thinking. And I actually tap it on the little thought. I tap it with a wand with a star on the end. I actually tap the thought and say, thinking, and I disappear it. Poof. And then I say, I breathe in.
Breathe in, I breathe out.
I breathe out.
Girl, I'm doing this morning.
That's
I'm doing this tomorrow morning.
So start with 5 minutes because you want to be successful. You can start with 1 minute. When I'm teaching meditation, I start people with 1 minute and then 2 and then 5 because you want to get the hang of it, and you want to know it's not a failure when you go away, that that's the practice. It's really good practice if you go back and forth between tapping the thoughts and I breathe in, I breathe out. You're having a really good practice.
Yes.
And that will pay off even if you don't think it is, or you're still having a active brain. It will pay off in everything in your life. You will find you're more patient. You'll find that when you're washing dishes, you're really just sometimes washing dishes. Or when someone talks to you, you can be there and think of nothing else that you'd rather do. That you can put your phone away for longer periods of time and not feel anxious. There's so many benefits that come from meditation. So
tell me, how long do you meditate now? I know it's not a comparative analysis. I know it's not a competition, but I'm just interested.
I do several things in my meditation now. So I'm doing several kinds back to back. So about 45 minutes to an hour. And then on certain days, I try to do more. Like I tried to do 10 hours on Good Friday. That was really interesting. But I don't think, I think that it's something that as you start liking the feeling of it, you'll want to try that. You know, you'll want to do it, that it doesn't become homework, that it becomes something, well, what would happen if I carved out an hour and just see what happens? Yeah. It's fun. It's really
It's kind
fun.
of like running for me. Like, you know, it's like I hadn't run 5 miles in a long time. And I was like, oh, I can't wait for tomorrow. And maybe if I hydrate with, you know, 2 liters of water today, maybe I can even go longer and harder tomorrow. So I remember it is an excited thing for me to think, how far can I go Friday? Can I do
It's
it
just
tomorrow?
like that.
Yeah.
It's practice. It's just like that. It's exactly like that. It's like running for your soul. There is a story that Sharon Salzberg, who is a master meditation teacher, she tells this thing that the student asks the teacher, why do you meditate? Expecting it's going to be something like to lift up off the earth and transcend and go off into other vibrations or to reach enlightenment. And the teacher says, I meditate so I can notice that little pink flower over there. It takes you down to calm, and you see the beauty and you notice the love, and you can find the gratitude and the blessings more easily.
Oh, glory. I feel that. I love that. I love that answer. I love that the answer was so that I can see the beauty of that pink flower over there. It's true, because like when I told you I was tracking my money, I was able to see these beautiful little ways where life, God was providing for me in the many ways. And it was a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Tell me this. You talk about, I love even the first intro before you get to the days, and I'm talking about the everyday spirit, the daily devotional. Is that odd to call it a daily devotional? Because it is.
No, yeah, it is. Except most devotionals
Are
are
Christian.
biblically based.
Yeah, I know.
And this one is everybody's welcome.
Yes, and it feels that way too. So I love that you tell me your different, you're like day books, gratitude. Here are the 3 sections of your intro: day books, gratitude, which I feel like we've dove into gratitude, but about God. And then I do want you to get back to, because I'm aware that you just went to number 3 of 7 items that you do, but you say something. There are many words in this book that point to the concept of God, along with the word God. You will also find spirit, the divine, divine love, love, creator, source, divine source, higher power in the universe. What I want to know is, what is God to you? Who is God to you?
Love everywhere. Love beyond your wildest dreams. Unconditional, that you can find in the tapestry of every small moment of every day. In the beauty
Yes.
of nature, in the soul of others, God is woven everywhere when we open to that idea.
I love it. And that you want us all to know that this offer of unconditional love and positivity is ours. So go on to your number 4. I just want it, because I know that the word God has a lot of, it is a word that is packed for a lot of people. It's a trigger word for some. I recently interviewed a lady maybe a few months ago, and she is actually a spiritual leader, and she comes out of the traditional Christian church, but she certainly is not traditional in her beliefs. There'd be probably a lot of Christians who'd be like, she's, blah, blah. But she was so, like you, profoundly deep and wise. And one thing I learned from her is that the word God had so many triggers for her. So I would be remiss if we didn't touch on that and understood that the word God can feel really alienating to some. But what I love is you gave other words. We're talking about forget God. If that word is too packed for you, I want you to know that I understand that. And then think about creator. Think about source. Think about the eternal one, the one whom you come from, who you will always be a part of. Isn't that a wonderful thought? Because I think it gets clouded by a lot of our own very human limitations that we place on God, and restrictions and personalities. And it's like, no, none of that's God.
Not to mention the fact that God has become very political, of football, so to speak, in today's day and age. So that is another way that the evoking the name of God can really cause us to recoil depending on which side of a certain issue we're on. So I do encourage you to think of it with any word you want, but the idea is that it is bigger than you.
Yes.
You're part of it.
Mm-hmm.
It can be love, but it's bigger than you. And that's the power of it, that you're tapping in.
Oh, I love you.
This source of complete assistance, flow, grace,
yes,
in our lives. We want that. We want to tap into that. And whatever that is, universe, it's benevolent, and it's there for the asking, for the opening, when we put our focus there.
I love that you just said that too, because I just interviewed a lady yesterday, and we were talking around it, and she was, so that's why I asked, well, do you believe in God? And she was like, oh, not, she had a lot of, it's a trigger word for her, because she had a lot of negative experiences and a lot of like the kibosh coming down on her, and feeling her take when she heard that word, it felt very hateful for her. And I have to honor that, right? We need to honor that. So for me, I'm like, okay, why would that be what she would feel? Then we need to look at her experiences. And then it also makes me go, oh, it just breaks my heart. So then I asked her, well, where do you go when you come to an end of yourself? And you know what her answer? She was like, that's a good question. She goes, well, I go for, listen to this. I know you'll get this, Mary. She goes, I go for maybe a 10-mile run. I I walk out into the woods. I visit my mother's grave. Every last one of those things took her to a space where she could feel something bigger than her.
Yes, you're right.
Every last one of those. If you are a runner and you have worked all day, 14 hours, and you are exhausted, you know that when you take off to run a 10-mile run, you cannot run a 10-mile run. You have got to lean on something that's stronger than your legs and your lung capacity because you don't have it. And whatever that is, that's the thing that's greater and bigger than you, my girl. Mm-hmm. And when I told her that, she was like, yes. I said, so when you're going to visit your mother, this is a part of your spiritual practice. You are tapping into that which is eternal. There's something in that moment. You're standing on the grave of your mother who is no longer here on this plane. And by you doing that, you're tapping into the existence of something greater and beyond. Do you see what you do? You do it naturally. You go out into the woods to look at the trees because this tree has been here before you and it will be here long after you are gone. Isn't that amazing?
Wise words, Jay, wise words. Because the thing about spirituality is that we're not adding anything to our lives. We are lifting a veil to uncover who we already are. We all got this thing.
I love you.
It's just that we're not all giving it equal time. So it's there. It is. Each one in a different way. And
that's exactly right.
It so well to her.
Well, and it wasn't even that it came so clearly to me when she told me the things that I was like, she is tapping into that which is eternal, that which is greater than her. And the truth of what I'm hearing you say is profoundly at our core, we all want to be tapped into that, don't we?
We do. We do. I think it's a longing.
It is a longing. And that's, I was just talking to a girlfriend of mine who was here earlier. And that's the thing. It's a lot of different spiritual belief systems. What it becomes is rule following. I got some rules that I can follow, and I want to teach you how to follow the rules like I do. And if you follow the rules like I do, let me tell you how it's going to be good for you. But if you don't follow the rules, and I'm like, I don't know if God was trying to set up a whole bunch of rules. Like, I don't think I lose myself and I lose the depth and the profundity of God when I just try to focus on rules for me. Mm-hmm. I do.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that. And I think that we all have such an individual idea of our religion and spirituality. And one of the things that I had hoped to accomplish with the book is that this is not instead of religion, but something that can go with, alongside.
And you feel that, by the way.
I'm pulling our common ground together here. I'm pulling the common ground of major faith traditions together here.
You are.
Love one another, forgive, believe, have faith, be joyful, be thankful in all things. All of that can be taken back to your own spiritual tradition, but we should be, I don't like shoulds, but we could be all practicing this now,
all the time,
all the time.
You have brought this, like, I love this. On April 12th, you talk about the holy in the small. Mm-hmm. Joy is finding the holy in the small and the sacred in the everyday. Mm-hmm. It truly is. Mm-hmm. What's your fourth thing that you do, Mary?
Well, coming out, and this dovetails nicely with the idea of our higher power. After meditation, before you flip into the things you have to do, or your mind completely gets up to speed, it's a beautiful time to say a prayer. And prayer, like God, can be a trigger thing too.
You can.
I say, make a request, make an offering of your day. I often just say, without a word before it, like God, or naming it a particular thing, bless this day, bless me to be useful, help me to be kind and helpful, show me the way out of this dilemma that I can't figure out with being an Amazon seller, show me how to deal with this person in my life who is suffering so much, help me be what you would have me be today. I surrender my wish to muscle through everything by myself, and I'm inviting in assistance and help that could be ease and grace, that could be a very simple answer to the things that I might have had to work really hard to accomplish. So I find that shooting off that prayer, that request, that help me, be with me,
Help me.
show me, use me.
Like Anne Lamott said, that help. That's a full-on prayer.
Help,
Thank
thanks.
you.
Wow, that was the name of her book. Those are the three prayers.
Yeah. Help.
I love that. I love
Thanks. And wow. I know. And
Yeah.
the wow is the acknowledgement of the sacred and the holy and the great and the magnificent
Exactly.
and the everyday.
It's awe.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, wow. Are you kidding me? This tree is amazing. So the prayer's quick, you know, so all of this is fairly flowing, you know.
Fluid. Yeah.
Prayer is there. It's your bit of surrender and help me. And sometimes I set my phone alarm for every hour in the day, and my phone alarm will ring and I'll think, oh my gosh, I have not asked for help in the last whole hour. I like forgot to ask for grace and spiritual help. And I'll just say, okay, help me with this thing I'm working on right now. Thank you. Bam.
Thank you.
Back. That's
I
it.
love it.
And then the next hour being like, whoa, God, are you still here?
I hope people are hearing how accessible this is. This isn't like, and knock the gong and call upon. This is very, very accessible.
Conversational.
Conversational.
Invite your higher power into the room with you, which is your spirit in you, connected to that. This is you, beautiful you. That is, you just want to reach into all of that magnificence and radiance and love and let it free. Okay, so then the fifth thing for the seated practice is affirmations. And I say, I want to flow through this day with ease and grace. I'm worthy of good things. I know what I'm doing. The angels are with me. This is going to be an amazing day. So I just belt those out, and then I stand up and I'm feeling really great because I just set the scene for an amazing day.
Ooh, I love it.
And then the ones I take out into the day, the two that I walk away with are kindness and compassion, which is one, and that's all wrapped up in love. And that's for myself and for others. So
what does that look like?
I am vowing that when I say, boy, did you say a stupid thing in that interview the other day, or wow, Mary, couldn't you have packed those books faster and then, you know, people would have gotten them by Christmas, or, you know, why didn't you get another book out this year? All the things, or just the, you know, how come there's no food in the kitchen? Why did I, you know, eat crap again for lunch? You know what? The ways that we beat up on ourselves constantly are like the monkey mind.
It is the monkey mind.
I'm vowing.
And it's embarrassing. And sometimes, because I'm like, I would never talk to you like that, ever.
Don't you talk to yourself like you talk to your best beloved friend, and turn that around and say, you know what, Mary, you did the best you could today. Nope, hun, you're doing great. Keep on it. Keep on it. You did good with that. Like, encouraging myself. That's what kindness to myself feels like. Sometimes it feels like stopping work actually at 5 or 6 o'clock instead of 9 or 10 o'clock. It can be eating well. It can be
eating a brownie.
Eating a brownie. Exactly. It can be calling a friend. Ice cream is actually mine.
I just made some brownies today. I had it made them and I was like, I want a brownie.
You know what your soul care feels like, and you need to move that up on your priority list, because we cannot be compassionate and kind in the world if we are not so to ourselves.
It's so true. You know, when I learned, and I don't want to say learned as having arrived, I am still actively in the process, but when I learned the importance of being kind to myself, now I fail at it many times. But what I love about where I'm at in my life is even when I fail at it, I'm like, okay, we're just going to get up and try again, you know? But it helped me be kinder and more generous to others. So I am someone who doesn't have, I didn't have a great father. He wasn't a great presence. He wasn't a great leader. He wasn't a great lover of my mother or his family. My father, I'm his only child in marriage. He had 4 children before he married my mother, and he fathered 10 children with 10 different women after he said I do. So I'm one of 15 children this man has fathered on this planet.
Mhm.
And I used to have a great sense of shame about that and frustration. I was like, this mother scratcher, like, how do you even look at yourself? And, you know, and I just, oh, like I couldn't even stand them. And it was like little by little, it dropped in my soul that there was never a day when my father said, how can I be the crappiest father and disrupt Shay's life and affect her so deeply and magnificently that she will still be pulling threads from these pain points when she's in her 30s and 40s? How can I do that? He never once did that. That's the truth. He never once did that. What he did was, he may not have been a very conscious liver. You know, he may not have been a very reflective person, but what he was doing was his best. He did his best that he knew how to with what he had in his pockets. It's true. Now, that doesn't mean that I didn't deserve or want more. Those two things are equally true. But when I was able to be more generous and kind to myself, it allowed me to look at my father. And so I do not have hatred in my heart for my father. I may not feel a sense of closeness like a father-daughter thing, but I do see him as a wonderful person who did the best he could.
Wow. Yeah. That is a big lesson in forgiveness right there, Shay. You did the work of separating what he did from who you are.
Yeah. And when you're a kid, it's very hard to do that. Your parents, that's why on the playing ground, that's why some fighting words, your mama, because you cannot distinguish your mama from you. Yeah. When you're younger. So I want to ask you a question. When you're talking about exercising compassion throughout the day, I want to bring it to a real life situation. Say you got someone who's just getting on your last nerves, Mary, like every time, like these people won't give you a break. They no matter what thing you answer that serves them, they're going to find some fault with it. And you are just like, could this person just disappear, Jesus? Could they just disappear? What do you do?
I was thinking about this when you were talking about your father a little bit, in that there are people who, I guess, have come to really teach us some big lessons about life, you know, because the people who bother us the most deeply, who take up real estate in our hearts and minds, are ones who have something big to teach us. And it's ours to mine or not. We don't have to. This is not required of everybody. You can leave it alone. Some stuff just you can't deal with. But when something like that happens and someone is really riling you up, I feel like to pause and ask why, and what part of you is that speaking to? Is it part of you that you kind of maybe several years ago that you are relating to on some level and wish you didn't have that trait? Or is it something that you wish you never had, or that a parent had that you don't want to have? Sometimes it's really related to your life in a way that doesn't have to do with them, that has to do with you. So that's worth looking at.
So you step out and you start looking at it from those different angles.
Pause and just take a little look and maybe write down a few things. I think that it can be helpful to see what's really there and what is just your mind repeating some of the same stuff. And then by way of dismissing it, or please God, make this go away, like you said, I have two things that I do. One is, and I do this regularly as part of the kindness and compassion to people I love and strangers on the street and everybody who comments on a post of mine, I bless people. Just bless you. Bless people constantly. It's a practice. It's a kindness, compassion practice. Just send out blessings. Walk down the street, bless you. Somebody is having an argument with the, bank person in front of you, bless you. Bless everybody. And it sends beams of energy that you have no idea how you change someone's day, but you do. It's energy and it works.
Ooh, I'm
And
going to start doing that right now.
And the other thing I've started doing in politics that has been working so well for me lately, you know, the buttons on your computer that are red, yellow, and green, and you
Yes.
can, the yellow one, I minimize people. And when somebody is, I'm thinking, how could they do this? Like I'm reading an article and think, oh, how could you even do this? And how could they do this? And oh, wow. And then I think, minimize. And I hit the button and I shrink them
Shut it
down
down.
to the tiny little icon. And then
Yes.
I say, bless you, but stay over there.
Oh, girl.
Yep.
I'm going to let's
It
pause on
works
that.
pretty well because it takes it out of your mind, because your mind knows when you minimize the screen, it goes down over there and then you don't look at it.
Minimize.
Minimize.
Bless you. Bless you, but you're staying right down there.
Yep. You just stay there little, but you don't get to take up my mind right now.
I love that. It strikes me in that same place where you take the wand and you go, I see you, monkey mind.
They're just practice tricks.
Disappear. I see you.
That's it.
I love it.
Yep.
So those are your seven.
The last one is
this is the seven.
Allowing this other level of beauty to infiltrate your soul through nature's peace. Noticing nature and being in awe. You can do it by looking out a window. I'm looking out a window and every day I look out and I think, how many greens can I find? Wow, there's a hummingbird. If I wasn't looking, I would have missed her every day. Look at the cardinals are back today. Oh my gosh, the orchid's going to bloom. Let nature, it is made to be a gift to de-stress us. Mm-hmm. And when we focus on it with a short walk without the phone or a look out the window, it changes things. So allow nature's peace, even a water element in your house. Drive to a lake or a park. We can all do that now safely without worrying about, COVID. It's a blessing that we can maybe go to a park or a riverside or somewhere where there's water and just sit for a minute. And it is the best anti-anxiety medicine, and it's everywhere. The sky at night, the stars. Notice and appreciate the beauty of nature, and it will raise your vibration.
Absolutely. For people who are moving from a solely Christian world view, and it's very hard for them to hear that, even in the beginning, the first chapter of Romans, it says, man knows of God's glory and amazingness, and that God is, or that divine spirit is, by just looking at the trees and nature around you, the birds around, the leaves on the limbs, the night sky. So even from those who only know a Christian perspective, which is fine. I don't want you to necessarily feel anything about that. But even your spiritual book shows you where you find God. Actually, it's in everything. Basically, what he's saying is there's no defense to say, I didn't show you I was here, because I got trees and birds and oceans and, and creatures in the ocean. Like I have so much here. And so what you're doing for me is you're emphasizing the truth and the magnificence of deeply spiritual practices from thousands and thousands of years back. Like it's not even, everywhere.
They are. This has all been around. It's all traditional stuff. I'm just culling it down so we can find it in small, loving actions every day.
Okay. I know. I cannot believe an hour has been an hour. I just have a couple of questions that I just want to end with. One, if there was something that beats in your heart that you would want people to take away from this conversation, what would you want people to take away?
That you are more beautiful and magnificent and radiant and made from love and incredible than your wildest dreams. Your wildest dreams. You cannot believe how beautiful you already are. And you don't have to do anything to earn it. You don't have to do anything to be worthy of it. You already are that.
That just makes me tear up. Thank you for saying that. Um, let me get my voice back there, Mary, taking me down the tear road. In the spirit of James Lipton, I end all of my interviews with the same kind of fireball questions. What sound or noise do you love?
Bird songs.
I do too. You know what? Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, after my run, I always sit on my front porch, even when it's super cold after I run, because I'm still hot and I just want to bring my breath down. And I think about thoughts that maybe I'm going to write or something. And this bird, this beautiful bird that was like auburn and cream. It was just this beautiful bird came and sat right on the banister, like right now, like it was like this close to me. And I turned around and I was like, what do I do? Because I don't want him to move. And I just sat there and I couldn't believe it. And we looked at each other and I almost cried simultaneously. It was like, he looked at me, he or she, I'm not quite sure, looked at me and I looked at him and I thought, how long will this last? How long will this last? And it stayed there for, I would say, what felt like forever, but it probably was like 10 or 15 seconds. And then it flew off and then had enough nerve to come back.
How beautiful. And it was not afraid of you. It felt your energy and it was not afraid.
That was the part that really blew my mind. So I just had to say that. I love that. Sound bird songs. What sound or noise don't you love?
I don't like the sound of gunshots or violence and yelling like in movies. I can't watch movies that have action scenes in them that are loud and have a lot of gunfire in them.
It's highly disruptive. I get that. I completely do. What is your favorite word, Mary?
I think it would be spirit, because that encompasses so much of us and our higher power and this tapestry of our souls throughout the world.
I love it. What is your favorite curse word?
Shit.
I think that's mine.
It just pops out like
all the time.
Yeah. Like if something happens, like if something would drop on my toe, that would be what comes out.
Me too. That's, I realize that is my go-to word. I would like to be like bold enough to be like the F word, and I have no problem with it. It's just not the word that, but it's when I look at my behavior, I'm like, I say shit a lot. And whiskey or wine?
Oh, definitely wine, but wine or nothing, because I had a brother who died of alcoholism last year.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry about that.
It brought a healthy respect for my wine drinking and to just want to really, really respect it more than I ever have before, because I've been forced to think about it in ways that I wish I didn't have to.
No, that's real. Thank you for sharing that. Mary, if you weren't doing what you're doing right now, what would you be doing?
I think I would be sitting with dying people or holding space for parents who have lost children, both of which are really passion things for me and places where I volunteer.
Wow. Last question, Mary. If heaven exists, what do you want God to say when you get there?
Welcome home.
Yes, indeed. Thank you. Mary, I don't know how to adequately thank you enough for sharing space and time with me, but this has been glorious for me.
Thank you, Shay. Me too. I love your show. I loved talking to you today so much. And I wanted to add something that I want to offer to your people.
Please.
A giveaway. I would like to give away a set of books. If you want to.
They're awesome. By the way, I'm going to start my journal. I've already started this, but I'm going to start my journal. I've been trying to hold off until January 1st because I just love squeaky new stuff.
Yeah. Now that we've talked about it, you have all these ideas about it too.
Mhm.
But what I was thinking is maybe you can get, when you post this,
Yep.
get people to tag somebody they think would like it. And that would be an entry. Enter as many times as you want with as many friends as you want. And then you pick a winner, and I'll send a set of books, one of each book, to the person and their friend.
Girl, for real.
Want to do
Okay.
it?
Yes,
that
I want to
sound
do
fun?
it. Thank
Let's
you.
do
That
it.
would be so much fun.
Mhm.
Tell me, what would be the time limit? What time limit are we going to give?
Good point, because, well, we just want to be sure they have them by the end of the year, but mail is slow now. I would say, how long does it take you to where people sort of find your interviews? A couple days?
No, because the moment we get off, it's going to be saved on, and then I put it in my story on both every platform that I have. So,
all right, I can put it on my story too. So why don't we just say a couple days? You pick the time.
okay. So today is Tuesday. Let's say by Thursday. Let's give 2 days.
Mhm.
Let's say by Thursday, the winner will be chosen, and it'll be randomly selected. And all you have to do is tag. First of all, you need to follow Everyday Spirit. You do.
And you, yeah.
And
I'll
you need
send
to
my
follow
people,
Everyday
I'll
Spirit.
send my people over to you too.
Yes.
Mhm.
You need to follow Everyday Spirit and Shay. You need to tag as many friends. You can enter as many friends as possible. And the winner will be known on Thursday.
Mhm.
And by the end of the day, we will. And both the winner and their friend whom they tagged will get.
Mhm.
This is crazy. I mean,
so each entry has to be.
You guys see how thick this is? I'm just trying to show you. I'm trying to show you. This is legit, y'all. And if you're anything like me, I love the feel of books. Like, I always knew I would never be 100% digital person because I love the feel, the touch, the heft, the smell of a book. And so it is as yummy as you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're beautiful. I'm going to reach out to you the moment I hang up. Thank you.
I'm so glad we know each other now, and we'll keep in touch. And thank you so much, Shay.
Mary, thank you. Have a glorious day.
You too.
Bye.